Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gallbladder Health. Gonna chat for a minute, let people get on. If you have not already subscribed and hit the bell to get notifications, you actually can get where you can get notified when I go live. So in case you forgot to put a class on your calendar or missed an email or something like that, you can actually get notifications still when I come live. So hello, welcome. All right, thanks for joining us. If you are new to YouTube Live, you can actually join a chat and ask questions in your phone. If you go down underneath the video and the place where it says share and everything, there's something that's a live chat. You also can, if you're on a computer screen, that's going to be also right underneath in the comments. That chat I can see and can answer questions that come up as we're talking. Helps me to see the real people here too. It can be a little hard just talking to a computer screen with my dog chewing a leather in the background. So anyway, all right, let's get started. We are talking about gallbladder health, and so glad that you're joining us. I'm not sure how long this topic will be. I've been shooting to do smaller topics that are maybe a 20-ish minute talk, but there's a lot to talk about with gallbladders. But in some ways, it's pretty straightforward and simple. So thanks for being with us. We'll be here as long as we'll be here. So, okay. And just so you know, if you're watching live, these actually do get recorded automatically, and they're posted as soon as I'm done. So that can be something that you can come back to or share with your friends. I really appreciate that. You can also hit the like button. That helps to have the video show up a little bit. It's not like we're big or exciting, but we, of course, want to get this message out. That's why I'm talking. Why I'm taking my Tuesday evening to do this. So, gallbladder. Let's talk about gallbladder. So, in the comment description, I asked about is it your only option? Seems like so many people are getting their gallbladders removed right now. Is it your only option to get your gallbladder removed? Is a question. Once you have a bad gallbladder, is it true that you should just take it out because it's going to keep giving you problems, or are there ways to restore it? So we're going to talk about that today. Before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit more about what does the gallbladder do? So, I should have pulled up a picture of the body, but I don't have one. Well, I kind of have one. It's a muscle one. But if we look at, doesn't matter what these points are here. But if we look at the gallbladder this is the belly button, and then the rib cage is right up here. So the gallbladder sits right next to your liver, kind of in the middle. And when we have gallbladder pain, I wore the worst shirt for this. You're going to see, like right here is my sternum, and there's going to be a spot right there. And when you have gallbladder pain or your gallbladder sore, pushing on that spot is not going to make you feel very good. It might be pretty painful. It may just be a little bit uncomfortable, kind of make you nauseous. So that is showing up your gallbladder. Why should we check that? Why should we pay attention and help the gallbladder? Why do we need the gallbladder? So our gallbladder is mostly a storage container. It stores a very important thing called bile. Bile is a compound that our body makes primarily from cholesterol that is used to emulsify fats. So when we eat fatty foods, the bile goes in and helps break apart those fats so they're able to be absorbed into the body, which is really great. That is something, cholesterol is something essential to us, and we'll talk about that in a second. So as we're able to digest that fat by emulsifying it with enough bile, everything flows smoothly. We also get toxins that are put into that bile, and we get to eliminate them from the body. I can't deal with the thing anymore. Okay, so when we eliminate toxins from the body, we need to do that with bile. So what happens? What goes wrong with this? When we have bile that gets sludgy. Sludgy bile is what leads eventually to your gallbladder being taken out. Because that bile gets sludgy, it's stored into the gallbladder, and then it, combined with not eating enough fat. Hold on, let me start over. Let me pretend the dog did not just completely distract me. And let's start at the beginning of that sentence. In conversation. Okay, so we need a gallbladder because it stores bile. We need bile because we need to digest fat. We need fat because it's essential in many parts of our body. We need fat for cholesterol to make sex hormones, which aren't just hormones like we think of them, but it's also, sex hormones, testosterone, aldosterone, estradiol, cortisol, corticosterone, progesterone, pregnenolone, DHEA, things that make us happy and well and content. Those are all things that we need, and we need cholesterol to make them. We also need cholesterol for our brain. Some parts of our brain are up to 60% dry weight cholesterol. If you do not have enough cholesterol in your brain, you can't function, you can't think well. You're going to have memory loss, you're going to have problems finding words and problems figuring things out. So when we have decreased brain function, we almost always, if not always, have cholesterol deficiency. We also need cholesterol for every single cell in our body. The phospholipid membrane, which you've probably heard about, is made partially of lipids, of cholesterol. That cholesterol is maintaining the structure of the membrane. And if we do not have enough cholesterol, especially from healthy fats, meaning real fats, not man-made fats, when we have enough cholesterol to make healthy cells, we can make as many cells as we want and they will function properly. If we have not enough healthy fats, or we eat a ton of fake processed rancid oils like canola oil, high heat, anything vegetable oil, even if it's good, but you heat it in your stove past, or your oven past boiling, past smoke point, right? You get smoke that comes off of your olive oil. Throw that away. That is now a rancid fat, and it will be absorbed by your body and used in a cell and lead to a dysfunctional cell. Okay, I am sassy tonight, apparently. So don't eat rancid, fake, man-made fats. Eat fats that were made in nature for you to consume that are good for your body, that are similar in structure to exactly what your body uses, because we are animals too. Okay, so we need fat for our immune system as well. A lot of processes, including inflammation and stopping inflammation, like completing the inflammatory process, which means we actually get better and don't have pain or damage anymore. We need cholesterol to do that. So every cell in our body, our brains have tons. Our nervous system also needs a lot. We need it for our immune system and our hormones. So, no big deal, eat low fat. Obviously, you're probably not here because you believe low fat is good, but it's very, very helpful to do that. And we need a gallbladder to do that, because eating fat that goes in your gut and leaves you doesn't do you any good, right? You have to absorb it into your body. And that is where bile comes in. Bile comes in by emulsifying that fat again, allowing your body to absorb it into your bloodstream, into your cells, to be distributed to where it's needed to rebuild stuff that's broken or needs to be regenerated. Okay, so we need a gallbladder because it holds bile there. Now, some of you have lost your gallbladder, and that is okay. We can and continue to make bile. It is not made in the gallbladder, it's only stored in the gallbladder. You can continue to make bile in your liver, and if you eat fat at a consistent rate, you can have enough bile to digest the fat that you eat, because your body knows what to do with it. It's consistently doing it. You probably won't feel great if you eat a really heavy meal, but if you get your fat intake up to a pretty normal routine, your body is going to compensate for that. It's going to have the bile available, flowing right into your intestines, and you will be good to go. So no worries if you don't have a gallbladder. It's obviously easier to if your gallbladder is healthy. What if your gallbladder is not healthy, right? That's what we're here for today. If your gallbladder is not healthy, then we can get what we call sludgy bile, or you can get gallstones. Sludgy bile kind of is gallstones, but they're very, very small. So sludgy bile is exactly what it sounds like. You have so many toxins in your bile that it becomes thick. How does that happen? It's a normal process. It's normal for our body to put put toxins into our gallbladder because that's the way we eliminate it. So not only does bile go into the intestines to emulsify fat, but it also pulls the toxins that are trapped in the bile that the liver has removed from the body, put in the bile. That's the train to get you out of here. And it eventually gets into the intestine to stay in the stool to get out of the body. This is an amazing elimination. We not only get fat, which helps us to detoxify and rebuild, but we also eliminate the very toxins that cause those damage in the first place. When it's flowing well and when you eat fat on a regular basis, then you're going to get rid of that bile often and you won't get too thick of toxins. It won't get sludgy. Your bile will be thin. It will flow easily. It will respond to any demand of food that you eat, and you'll be able to eliminate it very simply. However, if you don't eat fat very often, or if you have a tremendous amount of toxins, then your bile can get sludgy. You will stop eating fat because you feel poorly. Like, this isn't just because you're afraid of fat. Lots of us were because we were taught that. It's okay. Now you know fat is good for you. B, it's not always your fault. It's not always a choice, right? You may have stopped eating fat because you started feeling crappy when you ate fat. So we can do things about that, but this is what's happening. So lots of toxins or not eating fat very often will get that bile to be sludgy. When it becomes sludgy, we will then start forming stones. Gallstones can be two different looks. We can have hard calcified gallstones, and they're hard. They have minerals on the outside of them, and those mineral layers keep growing and growing and growing. It's like a jawbreaker. It gets really thick, big, obviously not this big, but you get pretty big gallstones. Some can be very big. Those gallstones then, when you eat a fatty meal and they happen to be near the door and they try to go out with the bile, will actually create a ton of pain. And this is why most people get their gallbladder removed, because of a ton of pain from a gallstone passing. Number one, once that already happened, your gallstone is already in your duct and there's nothing they can do about it. It's going to pass. It's already too late for that gallstone. So you're not in pain anymore because you're in surgery, but that gallstone would have passed with a lot of pain, and there's ways to help that pass faster, like putting geranium oil over your stomach, over your liver to dilate the bile duct. But it's going to pass. So if you can get through that acute phase, then you know, I have a gallbladder issue. I have some gallstones I need to take care of, which you can. We'll talk about in a second. Stone number two can be more, gelatinous. So it can kind of look like little jelly bubbles. Sorry, it's really exhausting talking to nothing but a computer screen. So gelatinous bubbles, or like bubba, is gonna ruin this Chinese drink for you guys. But you know the bubba tea, right? It's kind of like that, or a chia seed that's been, but they're usually bigger. They can be a little green or a little brown, like a greenish brown, and those are gallstones. You may have seen some of those in your stools or in your child's diapers. We also can get tiny, tiny little calcified ones, which is much more common, thankfully, and those are going to look like gritty sand, potentially. A lot of times you'll see those after you do an enema or when you're doing a gallbladder cleanse of some type of juicing or cayenne pepper, lemon juice, all those types of things. You may get that gritty sand at the bottom of your toilet, and those are tons of little bile stones, gallstones that came out, which is great. In the middle of each of those stones, if you dissect them, there's a little piece of toxin, a little parasite body, a little piece of bacteria or virus. It's something the body has trapped and encapsulated to get out of the body without it harming anything else in the body. So it's a very good system, very helpful. So to review thus far, number one, gallstones are good. The problem that they hurt is when they get too big because they've been in there too long because you haven't eaten enough fat. Sometimes they're more gelatinous, which is nice because they're just not as painful. Sometimes people tend to make one or the other. If they are harder, they are more likely to be more painful when you pass them. And in either way, you can fix this. So what do you do? Let me make sure I talked about everything that goes wrong. What goes wrong? Sludgy bile, gallstones, calcified, non-calcified, low-fat diet, and wrong fats. That's the other thing. Not only does wrong fats, bad, fake, processed fats, hurt our cells by the body puts that fake, rancid, broken cholesterol molecule in place of a good, healthy, clean, functional cholesterol molecule, and then your cell becomes, for the life of that cell, actually broken. It's not going to be able to function properly. It's going to have a little handicap. So let's say a cholesterol molecule looks like this, if it's healthy. And there's multiple receptor sites here. Well, let's say we do a rancid fat, and maybe that rancidity process has actually made the cholesterol molecule look like this. So it's fairly similar. The body recognizes this is cholesterol, and it puts it in place in the lipid membrane. But there's only 3 receptor sites instead of 10 for that molecule to work. It's not exactly how it works, but basically that. We have receptor sites on the end of our cells, and they work because we have molecules that are healthy. So when we don't have that, we have problems. Okay, moving away from that point. So that's a problem with wrong fats, but also wrong fats are mostly toxic. So the body will have to process those and get rid of those in the place that you get rid of toxins like the bile. And so eating wrong fats not only hinders the building process, it's also going to make the cleanup process greater as well. All right. What are some symptoms of gallbladder issues before you get to a gallbladder attack? That would be nice to know, right? So first off, we want to look at our stools. You guys probably all look at your poop now because you know me, but here is a Bristol stool chart. Type 1 is at the top. I don't know if the words are backwards for you or not, but type 1 is at the top. Type 7 is at the bottom. And it goes from deer pellets to just pure water. 3 and 4, here and here, are what we consider normal. So we want to have stools like that. They should be brown like that, not lighter. And or you can have a little bit of green, especially if you're doing something for your gallbladder at the moment. And you need to have they should sink, not float. The color matters because green bile is green. It makes brown stools. So when you have enough bile in your stools, they will be dark. When you have absent bile or low bile, your stools become white, light yellow, light brown, pale, excuse me. Also, floating and sinking. When you have fat in your stool that is not digested and is coming out of the body because you didn't actually absorb it in, your poop will float. Fat floats, right? If your stools are sinking, then you have digested all of the fat that you've eaten, and that also, again, shows that you have enough bile or that you ate no fat, but I'm assuming you're eating fat. Okay, so that's 1. Look at your stool. Now, it's very normal when you get sick. You might have your stools lighten up a little bit. It still means your gallbladder and your liver are struggling, but it doesn't mean you have to panic and do something about it. It's probably going to resolve as soon as you're well. Definitely want to support your body in any way that feels good, but you don't need to stress about that. If you consistently have lighter stools or stools that float, then we need to help our bile system out. So floating stools, and then you can have other symptoms like nausea. So you have a list right here. Knee pain. That's why I grabbed this list, because I wanted to remember all the kind of weird stuff. Knee pain can be some things, especially if you know that you injured it. But if you just randomly started getting knee pain, or you always just have weak knees, it's a possibility that your gallbladder is the organ that's linked neurologically through your spine to the gallbladder to your knees. So knee pain. Headaches, especially headaches right here, after you eat. Nausea, belching, right shoulder pain. This is my right shoulder. I don't know if you guys are seeing or not. Those can all be. Also, a feeling of resentment can show that your gallbladder. So anger is the emotion of the liver, and resentment is really anger that's stuck, right? You can't move beyond. can be a very fluid emotion, right? You can be angry at something, but when we hold on to anger, it becomes resentment. So that makes a lot of sense. The liver is anger, the gallbladder is resentment. So yeah, that's what we have. Nausea, vomiting, queasiness, belching, burping, upper abdominal pain, like I said. Sometimes just here, sometimes when you push on it. Oftentimes, you can get nausea with eating, and eating makes it worse because the body's like, I can't deal with this. You haven't given me the tools. I don't have the bile to digest what's going on. So, and then you will find yourself probably avoiding fat, because you find if you eat things that are fatty, especially animal fats, then you are having symptoms because your gallbladder is trying to let the bile flow, but if there's gallstones or a sludginess, it's just not working. Fun fact, and I posted about this today on social media, but for our stomach acid to properly turn on, we need the bile signal in our small intestine. So bile needs to hit the small intestine once we start chewing our food, because the body is amazingly connected. So when your mouth senses many, many things downstream turn on, so it's ready for the food. So when food hits your mouth, or probably smelling it is going to start this, right? But food hits your mouth and you're chewing, your gallbladder should start releasing the bile to be ready for that food. And when that bile hits the intestines, your stomach acid turns on. So that when the food comes down, your stomach acid is ready to break it up, digest it, and hit it into the small intestines for the next stage of digestion. So we need bile before. So one of the things that I posted about is that we need to have bile flowing 15 minutes before. So if you are taking some kind of ox bile supplement, and there's multiple, we'll kind of discuss those in a second. When you're taking an ox bile supplement, you want to take it 15 minutes before you eat, so that your stomach acid gets the signal to turn on, so that when you do start eating, everything is working well. Many people also have a stomach acid problem when they have a bile problem, partially because of that, probably mostly because of that, actually, because when the bile doesn't hit the small intestines, then the stomach acid doesn't know to turn on, so it doesn't. So when you are having digestive issues, especially if you're on that fat digestive issues symptom section, you want to make sure that you are eating and digesting your fats well. If you're not, you need to be supplementing with cholesterol. Sorry, you need to be supplementing with bile to some degree. So let's move into what do we do about it. There's kind of the basics. Here's what a gallbladder is for. That's why we need fat. What can go wrong? So let's talk about how we can fix that. What's amazing about our bodies is that they heal themselves. They are so able to heal. So when we have a body that needs to heal, a gallbladder that needs to heal specifically, we need to get fat to it. However, we can't because we don't have bile. The body gets into this vicious downward spiral because we need cholesterol to make bile. And then we need bile to digest cholesterol, which we then use to make more bile, which we then use to digest cholesterol, right? So we have to have both. But when you weren't fed cholesterol as a child because your mom was afraid of fat, you decided not to, or went vegetarian or vegan, if you had some kind of sickness that lasted a while, or something wrong with your stomach, an ulcer from stress or something like that, that things got off, then your bile stopped flowing. Or maybe you just were really toxic. You had gut dysbiosis and leaky gut. You had a whole bunch of toxins dumped into your bile. It got really thick really fast. You weren't able to really clean it out. You didn't know, then you started avoiding fat. Or you tried to eat fat and you were just nauseous because you knew fat was good for you, but it never absorbed because you didn't have enough bile to emulsify it. So lots and lots of things can cause this problem, and lots of places that we can fix it. So number one, we need to get the bile flowing. And if we don't have enough of our own, we need to take some. So ox bile, OX bile, is the way to get some bile. There are many different forms. Standard process has something called cholesterol, which works really well. There is just ox bile, which is encapsulated green bile from ox livers. That's really great. I said that the gallbladder is kind of over, but it's still on the liver. It just tends to be over to the middle of, not on the right side where the liver is, but kind of to the middle, because it needs to have access right underneath the stomach. Anyway, but it's, I've not dissected, what's the word? Butchered many animals, including separating the bile duct or the bile sac gallbladder from the liver, and it's sitting right there. You got to separate it. Anyway, I digress. So they take that off and they put it into capsules so that you can just take bile with your meal 15 minutes before your meal, right? So cholesterol, ox bile. For most people, any ox bile will do. I mean, get a grass-fed, good quality ox bile. Don't get something that's trash. But if you have had lots of problems, cholesterol does tend to work pretty well for people, but there is an ox bile on the gapsdiet.com website that I've had people that really struggled. Only some bile really worked for them. They noticed a difference with the ox bile from the gapsdiet.com website as opposed to anything else that they had tried. So apparently sometimes it matters. For most people that don't have really significant and severe issues, it's not such a big deal. Okay, gallstones. So we get the bile going, and now we can start digesting fat. Hooray! As we digest fat, we're able to make bile salts and clean up and do some other things. But if your bile is sludgy and your gallstones are big, we're going to have to do things to address those specifically. The first thing that we want to do, especially if you know you have stones, is start beet kvass. Beet like the vegetable, B-E-E-T. Kvass is K-V-A-S-S. Beet kvass is a fermented beet beverage. I have it on my website. I'll post a link in the description below. But it is super easy to make. You take beets, you cut them up, you put salt and filtered water in a jar, and you leave it on your counter for 3 to 5 days. So that's super easy to do. I recommend everyone do it. You can't buy beet kvass because it's too easy. It's too easy to make. So make some beet kvass, get it in your fridge, and then you're going to work your way up to 4 ounces a day. Beet kvass actually breaks apart gallstones. It doesn't even matter if you have gallstones, even calcified ones, because it will break them up. You don't want to drink a whole bunch of beet kvass because, as many of you have probably experienced, beets will just flush the liver. When you have that flush, the gallstones will come too, and then we can put ourselves into a gallbladder attack. So you want to start small, just get a little bit, get some of those nutrients and the enzymes and everything that beet kvass brings to the party to break up those stones so that they can then be flushed out when we start eating more fat. You also want to eat fat increasing to your ability. So we're not making you nauseous. You don't be throwing up bile or anything like that. We're just going to eat a little bit. For some people, that's adding a teaspoon once a day to their soup or on their bread or whatever they're eating. Some people are already there. They can have little bits. They can scrape their toast, but then you start putting it on thicker, or you start cooking your eggs in a little bit of butter. So start adding in fat and working your way up as your body can tolerate digesting it. Again, most of the time I do just recommend taking bile because it's so important that we get cholesterol, not only for the bile system, but also the rest of the body, that it's worth not really waiting too long, if at all, to start digesting your fat. So supplementing with bile probably for a little bit, but then we're going to get that beet kvass in to get the stones cleared out and broken up. And then we're going to continue to increase fat, and you'll be able to tolerate it too, so that we can start flushing our own bile through, which means toxins leave. Hooray! When we start getting rid of toxins, now we're cooking. Now we can really go. Once your bile is flowing, you want to eat a lot of fat. You want to keep it thin, and you can do different things that are gallbladder flushes at that point. Those different cayenne pepper drinks and all of that, that will do it. Also coffee enemas and regular enemas, but definitely coffee enemas will also flush your bile. It stimulates your bile to just pretty much empty your gallbladder, to pretty much empty of bile and everything in it. So we can get a huge flush when we do some of those things. But again, don't do that if you have stones or suspect stones, or until you're sure. You want to work up on the beet kvass, again, to 4 ounces in the morning. And some people, you can add 4 ounces in the afternoon. You want to do it 20 to 30 minutes before a meal on an empty stomach. So 4 ounces up to twice a day is the most that you'll ever do of beet kvass. It's pretty salty, and your body will come to really crave that. You can dilute it with water also if you don't want that much salt. And it's just so good for you. We supplement ox bile in some form if we need to. We do some beet kvass to break up those stones and to continue to help the liver to cleanse. And then we do some we eat fat. We eat fat to pull things out. We can also do some heavy hitting things like coffee enemas or gallbladder flushes that will really help to cleanse it, especially in the springtime. Early spring is the perfect time to spring clean, to get your body really set up for being smooth and functional in the summer. Last thing I have to talk about, except castor oil. I picked up this random book at Natural Grocers the other day, but castor oil can be another way to bind toxins and pull them out into the stool. Can help decongest your liver and your gallbladder a little bit, or even just your colon. If you're constipated, constipation is another sign of gallbladder issues. I forgot. It's one of the major ones, because bile gets things flowing. If you don't have enough bile, it doesn't flow and you get stopped up. Then you get toxins, and those toxins come in, so then you get anxiety and any other toxic symptom. So gut dysbiosis, leaky gut symptoms are definitely a huge, part of gallbladder, a huge signal that your gallbladder is probably not functioning optimally, at least. But the more specific ones are going to be nausea, belching, that kind of thing. All right. So treatments: castor oil, eating fat, ox bile, cholesterol, stomach acid. Sometimes we need to bolster our stomach acid specifically, but many times if you know you have gallbladder issues, you can definitely just start with taking some bile 15 minutes before you eat, and some ox bile, and getting that going so that your stomach acid naturally knows to go. What if you have no gallbladder? Also, do you have to be on these supplements all the time? For most people, no, you don't. Once you get your own bile clean and flowing, you can fully depend on it. You don't need to, unless you may keep some ox bile just in case you really have a fatty meal and you're uncomfortable and you want to take some bile afterwards to help process it. But most people don't need to take bile on a regular basis once they get the system flowing, except if you don't have a gallbladder. Like I said, if you eat a consistent amount of fat, you probably will be able to produce enough bile to keep up with helping the flow, helping digest your fat. But you got to keep a close eye on your stool and on your digestive symptoms. If your stools are all light, if your stools are floating, or even tend to float, maybe they don't float every day, but a few times a week at least they do. If you find that you are limiting your fat, you can't eat more than half a cup, let's say. Most people can eat 1.5 cups at a meal if they need to, when their bile is flowing really well. So if you're not able to do those things, your body needs some extra support. It may be that you can handle with breakfast after you've eaten beet kvass, because your bile's all ready to go anyway. But lunch and dinner, you need to take some. And maybe you only need 1 tablet or capsule with lunch and a few with dinner, because that's your bigger meal of the day. But it is important to be taking bile to help get your fat, because you have to get fat into your body. All health issues, that's a big statement. Many health issues come from a cholesterol deficiency. Immune, brain, cell function, hormone function are all going to be affected if you don't have enough cholesterol in your body. Immune also not just including fighting off infections, but also inflammatory. So pain, inflammation, things that don't finish. All of that is cholesterol deficiency symptoms. Most of us are cholesterol deficient. So we need to eat as much fat as we need to, and we need to have as much bile as we need to eat the fat that we need to eat. So that is why most of the time, at least on a fairly regular basis, if you don't have a gallbladder, you do need to be supplementing in some way. I think it is possible. I've had people do it where their body just is great at making bile, and they consistently eat a lot of bile, and it's a very rhythmic thing, and it does well. And they're not having any other symptoms. But and that's fine. But if you're having any symptoms of cholesterol deficiency, you need to be supplementing bile or getting your gallbladder in shape. But supplementing bile if you don't have a gallbladder. We still want to cleanse the liver if we don't have a gallbladder, because we still have toxins that are getting pulled out and put into bile, and we want to flush those out. When you do a coffee enema, I think it's 20 times. I think your blood filters through your liver 20 times faster for the period of time that the coffee is in your bowel, because the body knows. And then there will be a flush into the colon, and then you'll feel the urge to evacuate your bowel. There's usually 2 flushes. If you can wait for the second one, that's even better. And then you have an urge to get rid of it. It goes, and you have dumped all of those toxins in your body, and they are gone forever. Hooray. So, and the note on the coffee enema, but really that's what we were coming to the whole time. No. So there is lots of ways to help your gallbladder, even if it's really hurt, even if it's gone. Like, you can't help your gallbladder when it's gone, but you can definitely help your body to still detox, to still absorb cholesterol. You have to eat fat even if your gallbladder is gone. So that's the way to support it. All right. That's what I have to say for today. Hope that was a good topic. Pardon my intro and my yawns, but here we are. Such is life. I will wait just for a second for questions. Again, you can type them into the live chat, which is next to the share buttons and stuff underneath the video. And I will see those, and I can answer them if you have any questions. Otherwise, thanks for being here. I do just teach and have these up for free. If you feel like you want to donate and add to our educational efforts, then you can go to bewellclinic.net/events. I will remember the other link someday. But bewellclinic.net/events will take you to donate buttons, and all of them go in the same pot. So you can just donate whatever amount that you want to help us to keep going. I appreciate that very much, but no obligation. Please share this with your friends if they need to hear it. You are very welcome. I'm glad that was helpful. I'm glad you're feeling motivated. Hooray. Good. Perfect. Yep. So that's that. Otherwise, check out our newsletter. We will be announcing new classes. Near the end of each month, we announce new classes. So that'll be coming this coming Tuesday, probably, is the plan. I'll probably do 1 or 2 YouTube lives again, quick topics. Let me know if you have ideas that you want to hear about also. If you're local, we have an open house this Saturday, the 25th. So stop by from 10 to 1. That's pretty exciting here at Be Well Clinic. And that's all I got. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. It was great to have you. It's great to see your little number by your people, to know that people were watching me. And I will talk to you guys all soon. Have a lovely evening. See you later.